this tuning fork, when I slap it and it makes a tone, I don't know if you can hear that, depending on, the physical composition of this piece of metal and how hard I slap it on my knee, it's going to produce a certain frequency that we can measure at a certain volume. And this is a very simple object. It's a known, completely predictable process. Our bodies, our brains are extremely complicated systems that we do not fully understand, but they don't seem to be exempt from the laws of physics. Do you have a choice? Are you choosing it? What is you exactly, right? If you are just the summation of your neurons that are subject to the laws of physics, where are you, impacting that, right? I think that's an easy thing to confuse, certainly if your physical body is in chains, your will, your range of motion is limited. You don't have autonomy, right? You don't have control over your body in that sense. You're limited in that way. But when you're completely unfettered, you can move any way you want to. But why do you move in the way that you do?
A category is not a constraint on the possible and impossible. A category is a kind of explanation. A category is just a thought in your own head. This is a very fundamental, very difficult to express breakthrough each of us must make in philosophy. Compare what Sam says here about an individual making a decision to a group of people making a decision, such as, for example, a democracy debating and voting on who is going to be the next prime minister, or a democracy debating and voting on a particular resolution in a referendum. The people of Quebec are going to decide in a referendum whether they should be a separate country or continue to be a province within Canada. Is it relevant? Is it meaningful for me to say they have no choice at all? Because whatever they decide, these millions of people in debating, these millions of people in listening to radio call-in shows, these millions of people sitting around the kitchen table over breakfast talking about it, and then these millions of people ultimately voting with a ballot, that they in fact have no choice at all. That in fact the decision they are making is merely an illusion, because each and everything they think, say, and do must obey the laws of physics, because it falls within this category of what we call the laws of physics. Myanmar, the people of Myanmar, do they have a choice over who is their next prime minister, or do they not? Let's suppose there's some kind of military intervention, there's some kind of humanitarian mission, and once again, Myanmar has a free election, let's say within the next 3 years. Right? Currently, they have no choice. That's not debatable. They have no choice for who's in charge right now. But let's say it's contrived through some kind of, whether it's a United Nations intervention or America, or it's very unlikely Japan or China or anyone else is going to intervene. It's either going to be the United Nations or the United States intervenes, and then they have this election. What would it mean for me to say to you, oh, it's all an illusion? They have no choice at all. If you want to use this uniquely Christian term, they have no free will. You guys already know I criticize the concept and use of this term, free will. But they have no choice. There's really no decision for them to make at all. Because whatever happens in Myanmar, whatever happens in their peculiar democracy, right? It must obey the laws of biology. It's just a series of chemical reactions, of biological reactions within their bodies as human beings. There's nothing other than biology going on here. There's nothing supernal. There's nothing transcendent, right? There's nothing outside of the laws of physics, outside of the laws of biology. And as Sam himself says, if you watch this whole video, whether or not I've quoted him say here, and these laws of biology, they go back all the way to the beginning of the universe in an unbroken succession of cause and effect, steps, and stages. Do you see what you're doing there? You are taking an idea and placing it in a category, and then you are treating the category as more real than the things themselves. You're treating the explanation as more real than the things it seeks to explain. You are treating the category as a limit on what is possible and what is impossible, and it's not. It's just an idea you have made up in your own brain. Now, the human fascination with this particular illusion, for whatever reason, it's not commonly applied at a scale of many people making a decision, millions of people making a decision in a democracy, voting on a resolution, so on and so forth, voting in an election, voting on a referendum. For whatever reason, and I can think of reasons, what we are instead fascinated by is the idea that I didn't have a choice about cheating on my wife by fucking her sister, because that was just biology. That was just cause and effect. That was just the laws of physics, right? That my desires, my choices that I'm overwhelmed by, that I'm powerless in the face of, that crimes of passion are something I do not decide, right? There's a very important kind of dishonesty at work here, even when we're talking about completely irreligious people doing it for irreligious reasons, for what are ultimately self-serving, self-justifying reasons, while also being self-abnegating reasons, right? You're removing yourself from the equation. But as Sam recognizes, and as I've talked about in my earlier videos, to a very large extent we engage in this mode of thinking for reasons that are inextricable from our religious heritage, our cultural heritage. For some reason, when you talk to white Americans, it seems to them ridiculous to say, oh, the reason why you cheated on your ex-wife by sleeping with her sister, which obviously is a kind of betrayal that's very hard for anyone to get over. That's why I'm using this as an example. If you cheat on your wife with a waitress, it's not as hard for your marriage to recover from after the fact. If it's her sister, woo! Every branch of the family is impacted by this forever. You're re-traumatized every time you meet up with the extended family. It goes on and on forever. The harm can be very, very long-lasting for everyone involved. Indeed, that's why I'm. Well, what if you married into a Hindu family who deadpan serious say, oh, what you have to realize is this is your karma, stretching back through thousands of incarnations, generation after generation of spirits, recycled again and again, that, crimes of passion, things individual people do, decisions made by a nation on the scale of millions, that all of these things are actually attributable to the knock-on consequences, the cause and effect consequences of things I can say like your grandparents did, but it's not really your grandparents. It's your spiritual antecedents, that in a former life you were a king and you made this decision instead of this decision, that in a former life you were a monkey, you made this decision instead of this decision. Both in Hinduism and Buddhism, you have this kind of worldview, which is properly called fatalism. And that's what determinism is also. And they can say to you with the same certainty, these decisions you're making today that you think are political decisions, these decisions today that you think are decisions in terms of your own desires and wants and needs, oh, no. That's an illusion. The reality is this kind of unseen ecology stretching back thousands of years through thousands of incarnations. And nothing you do or think or say is outside of this category of karma. Right? Everything you do and say is within. Nothing transcends it. Nothing's okay. What is most pathetic about Sam's line of reasoning here is that he doesn't realize the real thesis, the real hypothesis his whole worldview relies on, is that it is impossible for a human being to make a decision without breaking the laws of physics, and that's laughable. At what point did anyone say or grant or agree that you cannot make a decision, like whether or not you're going to fuck your wife's sister, that you can't make a decision without transcending the laws of physics, without breaking the laws of physics, without somehow stepping outside of the remit of biology, cause and effect, chemistry, physics, that there has to be something supernatural? Now, there are Christians who say that, right? There are Christians who want to establish the supernatural reality of the soul, the supernatural reality of God. So they will, in a very Jesuitical way, claim that the most natural and inevitable aspects of human life require something supernatural, because they're trying to lead you down a path to convert to and accept, Jesus Christ and heaven and life after death and all these ridiculous notions. They'll use it as the thin edge of a wedge to get in at you, right, and try to convert you, try to change your mind, right? But you and I, as good, honest nihilists, good, honest skeptics, or good, honest atheists, why would we entertain the notion that there is anything that defies or transcends, that stands outside of, that steps beyond the laws of physics involved in my decision to either cheat on my wife or not cheat on my wife, to either sleep with her sister or not? Why? That's never been established. There's no empirical basis for that, and it is so ridiculous, it's so absurd, I can say to you, there is no possible conceivable basis for that. But you're so fucked up, you're so deluded, that you're on the other side of this set of assumptions, looking back at me as if my worldview is impossible, as if my worldview is outside of the laws of physics, outside of the laws of biology, and it's not. The elections in Myanmar, the referendum in Quebec, none of that requires an appeal to something transcendent, something supernatural, something outside of the laws of physics. And it's preposterous for you to suppose that it would. A category is an explanation. Let's say you have a patient who comes in to talk to a doctor, and I just mentioned I've actually seen this in a YouTube video. And they say, whenever I'm sitting on camera and recording a YouTube video, and the topic turns to human sexuality, desire and jealousy and whatever, I have these strange red blotches that come up my skin and cover my face. If I hadn't seen this myself, I don't know if I'd believe in it, because my own character is, I don't blush, and I don't break out in hives. That's what this is called. It's amazing if you've actually seen this on YouTube, or if you've had a friend who has this condition, where their psychological state, exhibit themselves like a skin condition. It really looks like a medically real rash. It's not just blushing. They have these, it looks like blood clots forming on the surface of the skin. They have these bright red blotches. Whoa. Okay. So, and this is someone who records YouTube videos, so you have evidence of it. They can come in and show the doctor exactly what this is. I'm sitting there, my complexion looks normal, and then the topic turns to something that excites my jealousy, excites certain sexual feelings, whatever, and there are these crazy red blotches that strip skin. Is this well explained by the laws of physics? No one here is claiming there's something supernatural or transcendent, like, we have to step outside the laws of physics. No. Is this well explained by the laws of chemistry, by the laws of biology? It isn't. And the reason why it isn't is someone else can read the same script, can say the same words, and they don't get these blotches. We are dealing now with something, with a phenomenon, with a problem, with a question that has to be referred to a different category, right? Whether you call it the category of psychology or what have you. It is not going to be well explained. It's not going to be well accounted for by being placed in this other category. But if you say breaking out in hives for psychological reasons, breaking out in hives due to nervousness or discomfort with the topic of conversation, is that something that transcends the laws of physics? No! Is that something that's impossible because it contradicts the laws of physics? No, a category is an explanation. A category is a kind of explanation. It never establishes a limit to what is possible and what is impossible, right? Breaking out in hives for psychological reasons is just something that is not explained very well by the laws of physics. This mode of thinking is on the whole rather spurious too. In what way exactly is the human mind like a metal tuning fork struck against a wooden table? In what way exactly? And in what way is the functioning of the human mind a biological synergy of sinews, of complex chemical combinations coming together that's very closely comparable to the digestion of food in your stomach, right? Now, neither of these allegories, shall we say, fully explains what human consciousness is, what human decision making is, right? But let me tell you something. Neither a tuning fork nor the lower intestine are capable of dreaming. And what you do when you dream is in some ways much more like the people of Myanmar yearning for democracy, or the people of Quebec yearning for their political independence to establish a new and separate country, a new and separate state. A lot of what we're dealing about in politics, a lot of what we're dealing with in philosophy, has much more in common with a dream than the category you call physics that you think is more real than the things it describes.